Díomh go léir. Is an ormhór domsa bheith an sá agus bhile mar dús má bhhaochas a gháil libh as ocht an cuire chun labhart libh inniuh. Good morning to you all. I am indeed very happy to join you today and to have this opportunity to engage with you all. Thank you to your President, Martin Marjoram, and your General Secretary, Michael Gillespie, for this valuable opportunity to address your Congress. I know the immense value of days such as this. Conference is a time of intense engagement, offering with it an opportunity for union members to share new ideas, thoughts, and initiatives. It is a time for discussion, a time for debate and dialogue, and on occasion, there can also be moments of disagreement. But at all times, conference, at its best, is a celebration of the energy, enthusiasm, talent, and commitment that is at the very heart of the education sector. I am a teacher by profession, and many in my family are also teachers. For more than 25 years, I have worked in the classroom, supporting, motivating, and encouraging students. I know that is the work that you do every day. I know the many rewards, but also the many demands and the challenges. No single year has been more challenging, more demanding, or more daunting for the education sector than this past year. And yet, through it all, schools up and down the country, teachers like you and your school communities have moved heaven and earth to make sure that school remains an engaging and caring environment where young people can thrive. Thank you to each one of you for all that you have done and all that you are doing. As we approach the end of the school year, students and teachers alike will now focus on the Leaving Certificate examinations. Similarly to last year, schools have been asked to provide accredited grades to their students. I acknowledge many of you have significant concerns around this process. These concerns have been articulated clearly by your union leaders, who have been able and professional representatives throughout the accredited grades process. Despite the challenges of COVID-19, it has remained a priority of the Department of Education to deliver the established Leaving Certificate to the class of 2021. However, this year, as happened last year, students have missed considerable in-person teaching time, and so the decision to offer students the option of accredited grades and the traditional Leaving Certificate now provides certainty, clarity, and fairness to all students. The Department and the State Examinations Commission have issued a range of guidance material and information on Leaving Certificate 2021 and SEC accredited grades to date. TUI has provided detailed and invaluable input to that guidance, input which is no doubt informed by you, the members, and your significant on-the-ground experience. The online candidate self-service portal closed on the 16th of March. Thank you for encouraging students to register on the portal and taking the time to explain the different options available to them. Schools are now facilitating the delivery of oral examinations over the Easter holidays and are continuing to facilitate both teaching and learning for sixth years and other class groups. This is a considerable demand on school staff, and I acknowledge the generosity and goodwill that makes it possible. None of these things would have been deliverable without the support of the TUI. I have engaged closely with your President and General Secretary to work through the huge challenges that the pandemic has posed. We are not always able to reach agreement, but I value and appreciate the passion, genuinely held views, and real vocation ethos which the TUI leadership has always conveyed on behalf of its members. I know that in education, we can only achieve with the leadership and commitment teachers bring to the classroom every day. This can and should never be taken for granted. It is one of the Irish education system's most enduring strengths. Yet never has that resilience and commitment been tested so much than in this past year. The measures regarding calculated grades and now accredited grades adopted in 2020 and in 2021 have been adopted in extraordinary circumstances. Teachers have managed to address exceptional challenges in exceptional times. You have been inventive and thoroughly professional in your responses, and together we have learned a great deal. However, I do want to assure you that the actions the Department of Education has taken do not represent a fixed precedent for future senior cycle reform. TUI, like others, have been advocates for carefully considered reform of senior cycle. I share your perspective. We need to make sure senior cycle provides a sound educational experience for students. Senior cycle needs to build on the strengths of what works well now, and it also needs to address the current and future learning needs of all types of learners and all types of schools. Senior cycle arrangements will evolve and change, and they need to do so, but in a way that commands the confidence and support of students, teachers, parents, and Irish society. The NCCA have undertaken a significant review of senior cycle, and I thank you for your wholehearted participation in that stage of the process. An advisory report is due to be submitted to the Department of Education by the NCCA later this year. That will give us a solid basis for the very detailed thinking and discussion that we will need to engage in to make sure that we take the right decisions for senior cycle students of the future. And I want teachers to be centrally involved in such discussions about the future of senior cycle, as well as students, parents, and broader society. Since last spring, no country has been left untouched by the threat of COVID-19. No community, no household, no family has been left unscathed. We have fundamentally changed our way of life and living, socially distanced and removed from the traditional ties that bind us so as to protect the most vulnerable and reduce the toll that this disease can have on our people. None of it was easy. Some of it was grimly hard. We need to own that. And we also need to celebrate and salute how the education sector has met these challenges head on. We all, as educators, appreciate fully that children and young people are best served when they attend school in person. Direct experience and academic research throughout this past year has shown that the closure of schools has far-reaching consequences for students, their parents, and indeed for the whole of society. Next Monday, we'll see the return to in-school learning of all Irish school students for the first time since we closed for the Christmas break. This is such a positive step forward, particularly for students from first to fourth year in post-primary, but also for everyone in the education sector and for all of society. Public Health continues to review the measures put in place to ensure safe operation of schools and is satisfied that the infection prevention and control measures in our schools will continue to keep schools and school communities as safe as possible. The Department of Education has also worked closely with HSE Public Health to ensure that the HSE school support teams are able to provide dedicated assistance and advice to school leaders when cases of COVID-19 arise in schools. I have allocated department staff to assist the HSE school teams in this work and have recently increased the allocation further. Intensive work is also ongoing with the HSE to roll out antigen testing on a pilot basis in primary and post-primary schools. This pilot will seek to examine the potential for antigen testing to be used within the school environment as an additional measure to sustain the opening of our schools. Later today, I will be speaking with Minister Peter Weir to learn more about Northern Ireland's experience with antigen testing in schools to date. Of course, these latest measures are a continuation of those put in place to support reopening of our schools last September. The government published the roadmap for the full return to school last summer, with details of a financial package to support its implementation. Overall, a package of 630 million has been provided, including funding for PPE, additional teaching posts, sanitizer, enhanced cleaning, and much, much more. Indeed, at second level, 1,080 additional posts were provided to support schools in implementing social distancing and managing the school environment. Supporting students' well-being has never been more important. In addition to the threat that COVID-19 presents to our physical well-being, it also poses a challenge to our mental health and well-being. At a time when life is particularly difficult, many students have been isolated from their usual networks and support mechanisms. For many young people, the sheer fact of school being open has been a lifeline. It has provided invaluable routine at a time of enormous flux and change, and teachers have been instrumental not only in making this happen, but also in supporting students at school. To further support students, the department has this year created 120 additional guidance counsellor posts to schools to enhance the provision of well-being and guidance at this critical and important time. The new vaccination rollout schedule was recommended to government by the National Immunisation Advisory Committee last week and endorsed by the NEFIT. I appreciate this change in schedule has been a cause of upset and disappointment for many in the education sector and also in other sectors. These past 12 months living in the shadow of COVID has not been easy for anyone. It has required considerable sacrifice and flexibility from all of us. We have had to adapt to new information, new evidence and circumstances as they present themselves. Throughout it all, we in the education sector have been guided by public health and medical experts. Last Thursday, I attended a briefing by Dr. Ronan Glynn, Acting Chief Medical Officer, and Dr. Kevin Kelleher of the HSE for representatives of education unions and management bodies. At this briefing, Drs. Glynn and Kelleher presented the medical evidence underpinning the recent changes to the vaccine programme. When the NIAC made their initial recommendations in December 2020 regarding the vaccination programme and its priority schedule, it was assumed that a person's occupation was a significant factor in determining their risk levels of COVID-19. New national and international evidence, however, now confirms that age is one of the strongest predictors of whether a person who contracts COVID-19 will be admitted to hospital or ICU or die as a result of their infection. To put this in context, Professor Karina Butler, Chair of NIAC, has confirmed that if we compare a person aged between 30 and 34 with a person aged between 60 and 64 years of age, the person aged between 60 and 64 years of age is 70 times more likely to die as a consequence of COVID-19 than the younger person. This is the science. I know that this change in direction is difficult for many in the education sector. I understand that. The vaccine programme has never been about valuing one group or profession over another. The guiding force behind it has always been to protect the most vulnerable in our society. Clear scientific evidence now tells us that older people, regardless of occupation, are more susceptible to the virus. If we truly wish to protect the most vulnerable, we must act proactively on the basis of this compelling scientific evidence. Education is a great leveller. It has the power to transform lives. This means reaching into every community, every home, and every classroom to ensure that every child and young person receives the support they need so that they can thrive. In Budget 2021, I introduced a number of measures to support this. In doing so, I was particularly mindful of the corrosive effect which COVID-19 school closures have had on certain students and their engagement with the school environment. We cannot allow these students to fall victim to the pandemic, and for this reason, the Department has increased its investment in the school completion programme. It has also extended the programme to a number of primary and post-primary schools who did not previously have access to it. I hope to build on these measures in future years to ensure that every child, regardless of his or her own circumstances, can access all that education has to offer. The Department launched the Teacher Supply Action Plan in 2018 in response to the challenges reported by schools. Our partners in education, including the TUI, have been leaders in developing new initiatives to address this issue, such as Trosawalya, the recruitment portal for registered teachers resident abroad, as well as the Subseeker portal. We must be proactive in meeting the needs of schools, most particularly in subject areas where there is particular difficulty in meeting demand for qualified teachers. One such programme has been the upskilling programme, which has been developed in collaboration with the higher education sector. This programme offers fully funded opportunities to registered post-primary teachers to upskill to teach mathematics, physics and Spanish. The first intake of this programme occurred in January 2021, with a further intake planned for January 2022. I am pleased to confirm that the Department will be working with the higher education sector to increase the number of places available for January 2022. In addition, a call will issue shortly for providers to develop a new programme to upskill teachers in Irish, adding to the range of subjects available through this programme currently. While measures such as this cannot address teacher supply in isolation, such programmes do offer strong opportunities for post-primary teachers who are interested in expanding their expertise. And it is my hope that the success of these programmes can be built on in the coming years. Before I come to my closing comments, I would like to mention the new National Pay Agreement building momentum. Under this agreement, an additional increment skip is provided for new entrant teachers. This is being implemented by the Department at present and will see teachers start to benefit by this summer. Notwithstanding this agreement, I recognise that many of you would like to see further action on pay. And I can reassure you that this government remains committed to making further progress over its term. As a step in this process, intensive engagement is beginning on the sectoral bargaining aspect of building momentum, and the Department will be engaging directly with the TUI on some of the issues that they wish to see advanced. This is an area where I believe we can make progress over the coming weeks. And now, as I begin to conclude, I would like again to acknowledge that it is nothing short of remarkable, in the face of this unprecedented pandemic, the manner in which school staff have successfully readjusted, reconfigured, and reimagined the traditional teaching and learning experience. These are difficult days, challenging times, but the past 12 months has achieved so much within the education sector. So much has been given selflessly and generously. The poet Shelley reminds us, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? We have wintered long in terms of COVID-19, but spring has come, and we look forward with hope and positivity to better and brighter days ahead. Gur maith agaibh go léir.